Welcome back to the Kosi Arsenal podcast. My name is Kosi. Welcome back to a brand new video. Martin Odegaard is injured. Declan Rice is suspended for the weekend game against Tottenham Hotspur. And more importantly, Mikel Merino, who would be a substitute for both of them, is injured for a couple of months. Arsenal have a midfield crisis. There are so many things to talk about. I think we start off with the Declan Rice red card. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Martin Odegaard injury. I think the fixture list is absolutely crazy. When you think about the Nations League and then you think about the Champions League, the new format of the Club World Cup and the Premier League as well, it's absolutely crazy. But Arsenal, there's a big question that we've got to ask ourselves, and this question must be answered honestly. Did we see this coming? Did we gamble on the wrong card? And when I say we gambled on the wrong card, what I mean is, did we go into the summer thinking that Odegaard would be fit all season, Rice would be fit and on form whole season, and Jorginho and Partey were enough in that defensive midfield position? Did we gamble on the wrong card? It looks like we did. So let me know in the comment box below, how do we replace Odegaard, by the way, in that team? Because for me, the statement is Arsenal don't have Odegaard. Arsenal are finished. And I know Arsenal are a team with enormous talent, especially in the middle of the park. I just don't feel Odegaard is replaceable. I don't think you can gamble with a Martin Odegaard position the way you would gamble with your DM. You could play Kai Havertz in the left central midfield position and it will work. You can play Jorginho or Partey in the 6. You can even play anyone or Timber in the 6 and probably it works out. But in Odegaard's position, when you think about the partnerships, when you think about the relationship, the cohesion he has with Saka, the cohesion he has with Ben White on that right-hand side, how important they are to this Arsenal team in terms of creativity, in terms of scoring goals, in terms of winning games, it's a massive blow. It's a huge blow. But let's start off with that injury, because again, I said this at the beginning of the campaign, that this season was going to be very different, and I wonder how no one at Arsenal anticipated this. I wonder how no one at Arsenal thought that in the last 2 years, our players have been almost completely injury-free, and that is a little bit of luck, and luck doesn't persist. It doesn't keep around for a long time. You've got to have mechanisms, you've got to have systems and strategies that lead to predictable results, and then luck can come in and probably you get even better results. So in the first season, that was 2021-2022, when Arsenal pushed Manchester City for the very first time, we had almost a very clean sheet of injured players. It was William Saliba towards the back end of the campaign, Takara Tomiyasu, if I remember very well, when those two picked up injuries, our season fell apart. So apart from Saliba and apart from Takara Tomiyasu, the rest of the team, obviously Partey is not included because Partey picks up that season injury every single season. But it was Saliba and it was Tomiyasu that picked up those two injuries, and Arsenal fell off. The 2022-23 campaign was different. Actually, the 23-24 campaign was different. Arsenal once again pushed Manchester City. This time we came very close. But again, when you think about what we endured in terms of injuries, Partey again being absent, Timber picking up that injury at the beginning of the campaign. The midfield was okay. We're not affected by injuries as compared to a Manchester United or a Tottenham Hotspur last season. And I remember saying this at the beginning of this campaign, that you cannot wish that doesn't happen. That happens every single time. Yes, you will wish that your players don't pick up injuries every single time. I mean, you want them fit, but it's not going to happen. It's not possible. Pushing Man City without rotating, without proper rotation of a manager like Pep Guardiola, it is going to physically, mentally, spiritually, in whatever aspect of a player's life, it's going to drain them. And Odegaard, who had played 2 seasons very well at the top, was always going to get drained, the same as Saka, the same as Declan Rice, the same as all the other players, right? And the fixture list after the fixture list after the end of last season was absolutely crazy. Declan Rice played every single game for England until the finals of the Euros. So that also tells you that some players have not even gotten some time to rest. He's already played another set of 180 minutes for England in the UEFA Nations League. And that tells you that this guy is not going to rest, is not resting, and he needs to rest. And that's why injuries were a key point when I was talking about Arsenal's season. What we had to expect out of this season, injuries were going to be a part. They were going to play a big part. And with Manchester City, how lucky or unlucky we are, I mean, City, at the beginning of this campaign, they have not had so many injuries. Now, last season, they dealt with Kevin De Bruyne being injured very well. Can Arsenal really respond in the same way? Do we have a Phil Foden in the team? I don't think we do. Do we have a player that can come in and step in for Martin Odegaard? I don't think we are. We are even incapacitated to replace to replace Declan Rice. And you would think that Rice playing out of position a little bit, playing in that left central midfield position, Arsenal should be all right, right? If you're playing a guy with defensive abilities on that side, Arsenal should be all right. If he's injured, if he's absent, then you should be able to have a player. Now, we are going to talk about Ethan Nwaneri. We're going to talk about other options available. But we are incapacitated to replace Rice, and we are incapacitated to replace Martin Odegaard. That's the first thing. So with Odegaard, I think a big chunk of our creativity is gone. That's the thing. A big chunk of our creativity is gone. And Mikel Arteta and Edu, again, I don't have a problem with Emil Smith-Rowe going to Fulham, because Emil Smith-Rowe does not replace Odegaard. He doesn't give us what Odegaard gives us. Not in terms of pressing, not in terms of creativity, not in terms of vision, not in terms of leadership. So I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is Fabio Vieira. Fabio Vieira goes out on loan. No option to buy. No obligation to buy. And then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, Odegaard is injured. And Fabio Vieira is the player that we have closest to Martin Odegaard. The only thing that they don't share for me is that physicality, because Odegaard is so protective on the ball and is very secure. So the physicality on the ball and the work rate of the ball. But Vieira is a smart player. He's got the ability to create. He's got the ability to score goals, and he's got the ability to find passes in difficult situations. So why did we get rid of Vieira and Emil Smith-Rowe in the same window and brought in Mikel Merino? Because why I didn't understand that, Mikel Merino does not replace Odegaard. I saw a few people saying, Mikel Merino could come in for Odegaard. No, he can't. He is not a Martin Odegaard. He's actually not close to Martin Odegaard. He's so far away. He's closer to Xhaka. So the Fabio Vieira thing didn't make any sense. And now I've been saying this midfield is light, this midfield is light, this midfield is light. And people have been saying, it's just Mikel Merino who is injured. Mikel Merino does not solve the problems this Arsenal team have with or without Declan Rice and Odegaard. Rice looks tired himself. So if we bring in Merino for Declan Rice and maybe rest Rice for quite some time, what happens to Odegaard? He doesn't have a backup, and you've sold his backup last summer for what? Like, what was the thinking behind us selling Emil Smith-Rowe and loaning out Fabio Vieira and replacing them with a 28-year-old Mikel Merino? That didn't make any sense. So here are the options to replace Martin Odegaard. Number 1 is Ethan Nwaneri. Now, with Ethan Nwaneri, obviously, he's more of an 8. I've looked at his game. I think it would be too early for us to request or to start demanding Ethan Nwaneri to make impossible performances. I mean, I've seen good performances from players like Adagula, Pedri at such a very young age. I don't think Ethan Neri is at the level of Pedri. I don't think Ethan Neri is a Vinicius Jr. I don't think he's a wonder kid. I think he's talented. I think he's good. I think he's developed well. I think he's going to become into maybe another Bukayo Saka, or maybe a Jack Wilshere, or maybe an Aaron Ramsey, or a Martinelli. But I don't think you bring him in to do what Phil Foden did for Man City last season, even if it's just for one game, especially in a high-pressure game like the North London Derby. So for me, Ethan Neri, no, definitely not. I have seen suggestions that instead of Odegaard, because Odegaard is injured, we should replace Odegaard with Saka. I don't know whether Arsenal fans really rate Saka too highly, or we think that he's Zeus, like a mini god, these Egyptian mythology gods. It's one or the other. I think Saka is good. I think he's played in a couple of positions. But there's one thing we always forget. In how many positions has Saka played well and delivered? One position or two. Left centre back, right? Actually, left wing back, not left centre back, but left wing back and right wing. So I don't see Saka create an Odegaard environment. So that is out. Completely out. I don't know. So we might have to do this, which is ridiculous, but there's nothing we have to do. Raheem Sterling is now going to become a key player for us in the North London Derby. He's going to become a very important player for us. The good thing is that Spurs play with a high line. So we can sit deep, and if we can have players like Jorginho and Alexander Zinchenko, by the way, the people who don't like him, Zinchenko becomes very crucial for Arsenal in the North London Derby. Like, more than crucial. Why? The reason that's why he becomes very crucial for us is this. You want a player who can play that ball over the top so that runners in Saka and Raheem Sterling can use their pace. That's Jorginho. That is Alexander Zinchenko. And without Odegaard, and without Merino, and without Declan Rice, it's time for us to see maybe Alexander Zinchenko in midfield. Now, he's going to have the likes of Calafiori behind him, the likes of Timber behind him. Could that security give him a reason to believe that he can be that, silky touch midfielder? Probably. So for me, replacing Declan Rice and replacing Odegaard at the same time, that is not easy. Even if you are super Pep, that is not easy. But what I think should happen is Alexander Zinchenko should be allowed to step into midfield. Trossard should be allowed to step into midfield. Sterling wide, Saka wide, and then maybe Havertz up top. There are two mistakes I don't want Arsenal to do, because this will lose the game for us. One, right? Mistake number one. Don't drop Kai Havertz into midfield. Like, it's not a solution. And I know at times Mikel Arteta is very simplistic. We don't have Odegaard. We don't have Declan Rice. Easy. Kai Havertz drop into midfield together with together with Jorginho and Partey. That is not going to work. 100% that will not work. So don't drop Kai Havertz. Please, Mikel, don't drop Kai Havertz into the midfield. It will not work. The other mistake we should not do, and I hope he doesn't do it, don't play a double pivot of Jorginho and Partey. Don't. The thing with this is this. Jorginho is a little bit better than Partey in the final into final third passes, so he can find a through ball, he can find a runner, and I like him, no problem. But Jorginho and Partey, it's going to be too defensive. It's going to be too compact. We are going to invite a lot of pressure on us. So for me, I think it should be Partey, who can play in that single pivot very well. And again, with the Spurs, yes, they are good. They're at home. Looking at Bissouma. I'm looking at Rodrigo Bentancur, is he still in? Is like, did he pick up an injury? Bentancur, Madison. I think they have a decent midfield, but it's a midfield that you can go against, right? So don't play a double pivot of Partey and Jorginho. I'm not in support of that. I'm also not in support of Havertz dropping in midfield. Zinchenko and Trossard dropping into midfield, that is okay. I don't know what kind of partnerships we are gonna have, but if the worst comes to the worst, maybe Ethan Nwaneri playing in midfield alongside Partey and alongside maybe Trossard, maybe Alexander Zinchenko. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but this brings out my point. The last video I did on this channel was, I'm sorry, Arsenal are not good this season, and I pointed to our midfield, which is very, very limited, for lack of a better word. Limited in terms of options, limited in terms of creativity, limited in so many areas. Now, we are here to discuss reality knocking on our door. And I tell you, when reality knocks, at times, it knocks for longer than you would have expected. But we hope that Odegaard is back for the Manchester City game and Atalanta game. We also hope that Declan Rice is back. Of course, he will be back, but he looks tired. He really, really looks tired. He's a player that needs his rest. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.